Okay, here we are. We're doing game audio today. We're going to talk about how sounds get into games and take a little bit of a look at something that I've done. I'm going to try to keep it short because I want to do a lot of these. I want to share what I know about game audio, which isn't everything, but I have some experience and I know a lot of people who I know don't know a lot about it. So let's take a look at what happens when you try to make sounds for video games. This game that we're looking at is called Porous Is He. It's the first video game I ever worked on. It is a really good example of sort of the baseline level of how sounds get into games, how they are referenced inside of the game engine, how they're mixed, and how they're made to work together to create an environment that sounds realistic to the player and brings you a little bit farther into the game. So here we go. This is Unity, for those of you who don't know. I don't know everything about Unity by any means. I've learned some things that have helped me integrate sounds into the games that I've worked on. This is not by any means a Unity lesson, more a lesson for sound designers and musicians in navigating Unity in a way that is useful as an audio person, maybe. So every team has a different way of organizing things. There's a lot of standardized ways that this is done. For now, we're just going to load up a scene. Where are they? Scenes, here we go. We're going to load up level 2. There's different levels. I did 3 levels for this game. For now, let's just take a look at level 2 and just do a little tiny playthrough. We're not going to play through the whole level, but just to hear what's going on. So level 2 is loaded up. I'm going to hit play. I've got my PlayStation controller here, and here we go. So this is the gameplay of Porous Is He. There's a lot of sounds that are in here. We're going to break some of that down. But for now, let's just take a little stroll through. You hear some cool rockabilly music going on that I made in this room right here, completely from scratch. I recorded all the instruments myself, so that's always fun. It's not the whole story when it comes to game audio, but getting the opportunity to write a little bit is great. But underneath that blasting music is some other sounds that we may not hear because the mix isn't great right now. We might be able to hear them. Anyways, yeah, we roam around this level and we're trying to solve these puzzles by absorbing different types of liquid and using it to change the environment and navigate our way through the environment by either putting out fires with water or by making those fires rage a little bit stronger with oil. For now, I'm going to quit this because I want to turn off the music just temporarily, which will demonstrate how that's done mixing-wise, and will also allow us to listen to some of these other sounds. So underneath that music is some more sounds that kind of bring us into that kitchen world. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this, what's called a hierarchy. And these are all the objects that live inside this scene. And all these different objects have different functions. They might be visible, they might be invisible, but they're all responsible for something in the game. Creating a surface to stand on, creating an object that will move and fall over, or emitting a sound. Many of these objects may or may not emit sounds. For now, we're just going to look at what we call the sound controller object, which is, yes, an invisible object, but it is responsible for the sound. So under sound controller, we see over here this audio source, and in the audio clip that's playing is mus_level2_LP_1. And that's just a naming convention that we used in the development of this game to help us organize our sounds. If we go down to our project in the bottom left-hand corner, we will see under resources and then sounds. Under sound effects, we have music, and we have different compositions for each level and the menu as well. And this is level 2 music. Anyways, back to the sound controller. We're going to turn off this music for now because I want to hear everything else that's going on. And to do that, we select our sound controller that's emitting the sound that we want. We find the audio source, which is, again, this component over here, and it has a bunch of parameters that we can change, including the volume. There's also pitch, there's panning, there's spatial blend. These controls allow for all sorts of other interactive ways of engaging with the sound. Anyways, we're going to turn off the music by setting the volume to 0. I'm just going to save it so that we don't lose that change. And then over here, underneath the sound controller, there's a separate component source. And I've added a couple of more sounds here. A room tone, which we'll hear. I'm going to set that just a tiny bit louder so that we can hear it when we launch the game. And we have a kitchen ambience. So this is designed to make it feel like we're actually not in just any room, but we are in specifically a kitchen. And you'll hear how I made that happen. So here we go. I'm going to launch the level again, and we can hear some of these other sounds. So the music's gone. It's faint, but you might hear... You know what? I'm going to turn this stuff up just so that we can hear it even a little bit better. So we're going to flip our room tone up to 0.1 volume-wise. It does get in the way if it gets much louder than that. And we're going to change the kitchen ambience to 0.4 volume-wise. And hopefully that'll allow us to hear it a little bit better. So here we go. Awesome. So now we can hear some of these other sounds. The sound of the fire. Hear some voices in the background, the kitchen table, somebody cutting something. We've obviously got our bouncy sounds. Got the sound when we pick up those bubbles. Hear some cutlery in the background. And this is all an ambience track that I designed to sound like it was happening inside of a kitchen. The sound of the water moving. We've got the sound of the fire burning. It's pretty unusual in a game to have to jump into the fire to progress through the level, but again, that is a decision that was made, and it wasn't my decision, so I just make the sounds. Anyways, yeah, so all these other tiny little sounds, again, I think they're pretty quiet, relatively speaking, and they can all be mixed. We would have to go find them, which there's easy ways of doing. Oh, there's the microwave in the background. Yeah, all these sounds might, hopefully sound like they're happening in the room that I'm recording in, but they're actually happening in the game, and they're meant to sound realistic that way. Empty ourselves of water so that we're light enough to jump around. And here we go. Anyways, that's a little bit more of how the sound works. Let's see if we can turn up some of these other sounds. Here we go. So I'm going to stop the playback of the game. So we're inside level 2 here on the hierarchy. Let's see if we can find where some of these sounds are emitted from. So we're going to go to our sound effects. We're going to go to one shots. Here we go. Bubble pop. The bubble pop is the sound when we pick up a bubble, which is a collectible item in the game. And I want that to be a little bit louder because I think that it's important to get that feedback as a player. It's more satisfying when we can really hear that bubble sound. So let's go and we'll right-click the sound that we're looking for, again with the naming convention that we used on this team. And we are going to find reference and scene. Here we go. We've got all these bubbles. And every bubble, I believe, has its own sound emitter, and the volume is set to 0.5. And this is where, navigating Unity becomes a little bit tricky. If I select all of them, I wonder if I can just change the volume of all of them to 0.75 and see if that works. And it seems to have worked. Hey, that's great. We have turned up the volume by 25%, and let's see what that does to the sound in our mix. A little more satisfying. I think it can go even more. I'm going to stop playback. We're going to find references in scene. We're going to select all of our bubbles, of which there are 35. We're going to go down on the right-hand side, find the audio source called SFX_bubble pop. And let's just turn the volume all the way up for all of these. Save it. We're going to click around, make sure, yep, the volume is all the way up on these. And let's play the scene again and see what happens. It's better. I think that I would even make the audio asset a little bit louder ahead of time if I were to do this again, which gives us more flexibility in the game engine to mix it how we want. So if we're designing sounds that get as close to peaking at 0 decibels without distorting, then that gives us a better level inside of the game engine to mix our audio. So we are not in a situation like this where we've maxed out the volume of the asset and it's still not loud enough. But it's always a good idea to do that. It's called gain staging. And it's used in music, it's used in live sound, it's used all over the place. And that's to make sure that everything is coming in a relatively similar level so that when we want to mix, we have full control over the volume of each individual piece. Anyways, that's enough for this for now. Again, I said I wanted to keep it short. I'm not sure how long this is going to be after a bit of editing, but thank you for checking it out. I hope to make more of this kind of content, and I'll see you next time.